Hello, everybody, and welcome back to tonight's show of I Can't Make This Shit Up. And we are going to be talking about drug policy and countries that have decriminalized illicit substances. I watched a really good documentary that Tyler, and I'm probably going to butcher his last name, Oliveira did, and he talked about Portland, Oregon, and how they decriminalized illicit substances and basically ended up having a really big issue and not fixing the drug problem, really. Um, so I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk about some updates that's going on with my husband and uh, his parole. And then I also want to talk about a couple other documentaries and podcasts that I started watching that I've really gotten into. So first of all, an update of mine is I went to my husband's parole hearing and it didn't go the greatest. And make a long story short, this morning he got his answer from the parole board and they gave him a 12-month flop. What that means is basically he won't be out in June on his earliest release date. He is now looking at possibly another year in prison. It's very unlikely that he will do that full year. And because of the situation that the parole decision was based around, and it's up for appeal. Right now, we're just waiting for that appeal answer, and then from there we can go to other options as far as getting the ticket reheard and filing paperwork to have it basically set aside so that he can be released and hopefully be out like by September. Ranger, enough. Lay down. And sorry, my dog is a pain in the ass. Lay down. So that's the update for my husband's incarceration and his parole. So I watched a documentary called Overdosed, and it was really good. I really liked it. It was basically made by the citizens of this town in West Virginia, and it was based upon what the pill mill and the pill epidemic really did for the town as far as bringing opioids into the town and how everybody ended up on heroin. And the doctor that was prescribing these medications, and how he ended up getting busted. It's really in depth about how small town America has been affected by the opiate crisis and what the lawmakers, what the government's doing, and how they're really like trying to crack down on these doctors that were writing obscene amounts of prescriptions for opiates and prescription pain meds. This doctor ended up getting federal time in prison for what he was doing. And it's just like it got to the point to where, the girl that does the documentary ends up moving out of the town because the citizens of the town basically start like threatening her. She gets death threats. She gets, yelled at constantly. And basically just because she's trying to tell the truth about what has happened and, what the opiate epidemic has done to, the people and how it's affected them. So if you get a chance, it's called Overdosed. It's really good. It's based on a town in, I want to say Virginia or West Virginia, but very, very good documentary. A podcast that I recently got into is Rise Above with Kevin Lanning. And I have to mention this because I actually reached out to him and sent him an email about possibly doing some sort of collaboration, because his podcast is so inspiring. He interviews people that have gone through fentanyl addiction, have gone through opiate addiction. He's a recovering addict himself. He battled with opiates as well. And what he's doing, it doesn't go unnoticed. The work that people like him, people like me are doing is really, really empowering, and it's really, really insightful. And it's what we need, because if people don't know what these drugs are doing to our communities and to our families and the people that are around us, they're not going to know that, people can drop like flies at any time. It's a killer. It's killing our communities. It's killing our friends, our families. And, if there's not a handle on it, it's just going to continue. And really, it boils down to drug policy and how the laws need to change. When I was with the harm reduction organization here in Grand Rapids, I was very fortunate that I got to go on a trip to Phoenix, Arizona, and join the Drug Policy Alliance conference on, drug policy and the laws and everything, and how, basically the conference was set up over a course of like 4 days, and there's different topics that you could go and see and different speakers. And it was really, really interesting because it was all based around harm reduction and how, how harm reduction plays such a vital role in drug policy, and how changing the laws is really what's going to make the drug problems better for everybody. But that's what I want to get into tonight, about Portland and what they didn't do, what they did do, and basically what they should be doing in order to make this work. So Tyler, the guy that does this documentary, basically, so he goes to Portland, and while drugs are still decriminalized, makes this documentary and starts to interview people that are on the streets. Some people are homeless, some people are, like merchants trying to sell their goods, business owners, and basically just, people in the community, and how the decriminalization of drugs has really affected the community there. People are out there literally getting high in the streets, with like out in the open. It's really, really interesting to watch, because, there's people that are like pretty much overdosing right in the streets, and people are just doing nothing. They're just walking by and not doing anything. They talked to one guy that says, every day there's an overdose. Another guy says that he's witnessed 200 fatal overdoses because of this situation. So, people are really upset about, the decriminalization of substances. And, what, you know, the what the substance users have brought to the city, and what comes with that. So the homelessness, the unhoused, the basically, like, they even talk to like some of the sanitation workers that are out in the streets and trying to clean up the streets. They carry sharps containers on their little carts for needles. Um, that might be littering the streets. I think that's a great idea. I wish we saw more of that, especially here. I wish that there were sharps containers all over the city. Um, I've actually talked to several people about going around and putting them up on like trees, and you know, having some sort of disposal for used needles. And really, it boils down to people are always going to use drugs. That's not going to stop. And if we can just make it safer, then we can stop the spread of disease. We can stop infection, and we can hopefully try to stop people from dying, and keep people making healthier choices, so that in the end they can achieve recovery and ultimately stay alive. And that's what harm reduction is all about. So Tyler Oliveira, he goes to Portland, interviews people, and then from there goes to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Amsterdam is definitely a interesting city because they have decriminalized drugs for a very, very long time. Everybody goes to Amsterdam to use illicit substances. However, when he goes there and starts interviewing people, he's talking to people that are using things like marijuana, ecstasy or Molly, shrooms or psilocybin, because basically you can go in coffee shops there and you can smoke a joint, or you can take Molly. Like, you can buy these drugs in an open air market legally. It's very interesting. I've never really seen anything like it. And, Amsterdam actually had a really, really big opiate crisis back in the 80s and early 90s, where they had just a huge increase in heroin use, and, to the point to where they didn't know what to do. And so that's why their drug policy changed and they started decriminalizing drugs. The interesting fact is, in Amsterdam, there are 3 different opiate or heroin recovery treatment type centers. And these centers give out medical grade heroin to the people that go there for free. And they do this because it's clean. It's, like I said, it's medical grade. And the median age of the typical heroin user in Amsterdam is like 54. If that doesn't tell you anything other than they're not getting new users, they're not getting younger users, they're getting people that have consistently used heroin throughout their life, or started in their early, probably late teens, early 20s, and then continue to use and have kept using because it's free, it's available, and they can go in and dose twice a day. They can dose in the morning and dose at night. But they do this because it's keeping them alive. They don't have to go through the withdrawals. They don't have to deal with the detox. And they know that they're not going to overdose and die. I mean, that's the coolest concept. It really is to me. I think the concept for these programs are absolutely amazing. These people can go in, they can do their dose, and then they're good for the day, and then they come back, do their last dose, and they're good for the night. They also provide methadone, Suboxone, and I think other opiate agonists, or like I'm sure Subutex and or Vivitrol, other options for opiate use. But this is a government-funded program. It's a harm reduction program. The guy that set it up is a huge harm reductionist in Amsterdam, and Tyler ends up interviewing him, and it's so cool to see like these programs work, and there's a reason why they work, and there's a reason why these countries don't look like Portland does, with the unhoused just laying in the middle of the streets, overdosing basically. So really what the US needs to do, or what even just Oregon needs to do, is take a lesson from these countries that have already been doing this for so many years and implement strategies to successfully decriminalize the substances and make it so that communities feel safe, and also they don't feel like their city is turning into a big trash heap. Really is the godfather of harm reduction, who lives in Portugal, talks about, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, talks about what they did. Portugal is the country. They talked about their opiate crisis as a health crisis, not a criminal issue. They made it a health issue. So instead of persecuting people that were using substances, using opiates, they made it a health issue. And I think that's really one of the biggest things that the US needs to start doing, is look at substance use altogether as a health issue, not a criminal issue. If we can stop, putting people in jail, locking them up, and trying to, use that as a way to get people off drugs, it's not going to work. It hasn't been successful this far, so why would it be successful? No, because people only, it's a forced system that people don't expect to happen, and it does. And then as soon as they get out, they start using again. Luckily for me, I got out and I didn't start using. I got on my shot and I stayed on it, and that's what saved my life. But at that point in my life, in my use, I was ready to be done. I was tired. I was exhausted. I didn't want to keep going the way I was going. And so I was ready to, get into recovery at that point. So with Portugal, what they're doing is, basically, if somebody gets caught with substances, it's not a criminal charge. They get like a ticket, and they have to meet with like a social worker, and basically if it keeps happening, if it's a repeated offender and it keeps happening, they basically get sent to a treatment center, where they are at that point kind of forced into treatment for, recommitting these crimes. Now, Portugal is also someplace that has, especially in the capital, which is Lisbon, they have safe injection sites. They have safe injection centers. You can go in, you can use safely. There's medical personnel there that watch and make sure that you don't overdose. And if you do start to overdose, that you are, given Narcan or oxygen, depending on how severe it might be. But when you go in there, you talk to the medical staff and you tell them, hey, I'm doing a little bit more than what I normally do. Can you just, pay attention to me a little bit more than, what, is normal for that person? Just because they are doing more and they want to make sure that they're not going to die. They can go in and they can smoke crack in there. They've got separate rooms that are separated, and so for people that are using like crack cocaine, they go into like one area and it's shut off, and it's got like a ventilation system, and then they've got the safe injection area where they can use opiates. They've got a pantry there where people can get clothes. They can take showers. They can take a nap. It's something that we need so bad in our country, and we need them all over the place. It's not just we need them in one city or one state. We need them everywhere. And if we had these places, the rates of overdose would go down drastically. And that's proven. Like, the numbers show in these countries that the rates of overdose and deaths by overdose go down tremendously with these kinds of systems in place. So the U.S. really needs to really get into the research and the statistics of the success rates of these things that are helping these other countries where they don't have the drug problems that we do. They don't have the unhoused problems that we do. They don't have the overdose death rates that we do. Numbers don't lie. That's, number one. Numbers do not lie. Statistics show. And it's evidence-based, and it's proven that these places are real. They work. Why can't we get it together and do this? Because it saves lives. And that's the most important thing. It saves people's fucking lives. It keeps people alive. And that's why, my ultimate goal is to start the treatment center that I want to start. And I saw that in a documentary. It's based on a model that's in British Columbia, in Vancouver, where they have a safe injection site on the first floor. If you want to go to detox, that's on the second floor. If you want to move up to residential, that's on the third floor. Fourth floor is like partial patient or outpatient, what have you. And then, there's also sober living, recovery, housing type, systems that are put into place for afterwards. These things work. Look at Canada. Canada doesn't have the issues that we do, but they have these things in place. New York New York City has a safe injection site, and it has helped. I believe it's Maryland or Rhode Island. I don't remember exactly which. I'm going to look it up real quick. I'm not sure which state it is, but they just opened a safe injection center as well. They're happening, and we need more of them, because that's one of the things that's going to stop the rates of overdose deaths. And if the laws don't change, the drug problem is just going to get worse. The overdoses are just going to get worse. I also watched a documentary on what's called nitazines. I posted something on Facebook about it. I posted the actual documentary, shared it, and said, look, this is in Kent County. This has been found in the drug supply in Kent County. It's a fentanyl analog. It's 100 times stronger than regular fentanyl, and it's going around in the supply. Like, people have already died from this. And we found it at the harm reduction organization that I worked at. They found it in the samples that were given to be tested. It's here. It's already here. I watched a documentary. They found it in Australia. It's coming from China. It's made, you can buy it online, like through TikTok. It's, it's not safe. It's killing people. And, it's super easy to get. It's just amazes me that these drugs are so easy to get hands on, coming from China. They're made in a lab. They're not safe. They, if you watch the documentary, the lady that does it, she does a really good job. She actually goes online and tries to buy nitazines. It's crazy. She talks to a lady that runs a safe injection site in Australia, in Sydney, and she's had it for 22 years. They've already been doing this for 22 years. I mean, come on, America. What the fuck are you doing? 22 years. Sydney, Australia has had safe injection site already. That's insane to me. Why don't we have these? Like, this is madness. We need these to keep people alive. People are going to use drugs. That's evident. But we can keep them alive. All right, safe injection sites in the U.S. The first government-authorized supervised injection site in the U.S. is operated by OnPoint New York City. It began operating in New York City in November of 2021. They're also known as safe consumption sites. Rhode Island became the first state to authorize safe injection sites in 2021. States including Colorado, Nevada, and New Mexico have considered allowing them as of May 2023. There's an article on apnews.com that says, the title of it is United States backs study of safe injection sites, overdose prevention. And this was written May 8th, 2023. Basically, it says that a grant provided more than $5 million over 4 years to New York University and Brown University to study 2 sites in New York City and 1 opening next year in Providence, Rhode Island. Researchers hope to enroll 1,000 adult drug users to study the site's effects on overdoses, to estimate their costs and gauge potential savings for the healthcare and criminal justice systems. Right there. That's right there. Numbers don't lie. With U.S. drug overdose deaths reaching nearly 107,000 in 2021, supporters contend safe injection sites, also called overdose prevention centers, They save lives. They can also get mental health treatment there, and other resources, medical care. Again, another thing that's going around in the supply, medetomidine, which is very similar to xylazine. It's an animal tranquilizer. It eats holes in the skin. These wounds don't heal. These are things that need to be brought to the attention of the government, and this is why we need these things. I can't stress this enough. The government really needs to get on top of this. I know in Michigan it's going to be hard because of how conservative this state is, especially West Michigan. I mean, hell, we're a bunch of Christian Reformed Dutch people. I mean, that's, for Christ's sake, they didn't even want in Zealand to have a sex toy store. I mean, seriously, they closed down a sex toy store in Zealand because it offended people. So the fuck what? So what? Like, these things happen, it's also, a sexual health and wellness store. There are things there that, health-wise, people do need. Like, people just absolutely amaze me with their ignorance and how the unknown scares people so fucking much, and how ignorance really blinds people. Like, this is 2025, people. 2025. If you can't handle a sex toy store in your town, like, what world do you live in? Because, I mean, basically you can find porn on TikTok and, Instagram and other places. I mean, it's in your face. It's everywhere. Like, the sexualization of, women and just everything else, especially women at a young age, it's getting younger and younger. So, I mean, really, that's crazy to me. But that's getting off topic, and I don't want to do that. So back to safe injection sites. When I was at the conference, I really enjoyed one of the speakers that I got to hear was a doctor that she's from Mexico City, Mexico, and she has a safe injection site there. It is one center for 1 million people. Basically, this center houses sex workers, gives them a safe place to sleep, gives them a place to shower. It gives them safe sex supplies, testing, STI, STD testing, gives them a place to use illicit substances, just everything. And that's really what we need. But one for 1 million people, that's a lot of fucking people. And one center ran by one woman. I'm just saying, like, it's 2025 and the government really needs to step it up and get these programs going, because we're going to continue to lose more people. More people in our communities are going to continue on dying. And until these places are built and started, it's just going to keep happening. I also saw another really good documentary, or not documentary, podcast. It's called Hard Knocks Talks. and Knox is spelled Knox. And it's called Hard Knocks Talks, Your Addiction Podcast. And the guy that hosts it, is also a recovering addict, and he interviews other people in recovery and gets their stories. And it's just, these people's stories are so inspiring, and you get to hear how, these people grew up, their family life, like what happened, the traumas that they've gone through, and really just basically their story, and from the beginning all the way to recovery and where they're at now. This is something that I want to start doing. I would love, especially to my viewers, and my followers, if you have a story that you want to tell and you want to be on the show, please reach out to me. I would love to hear your story. I would love to get you on and do an interview with you, and really just hear about your life and your struggles, and how you've gotten to where you are now. So if you want to be interviewed and be put on the show, please reach out to me. You can reach me on our Facebook page, I Can't Make This Shit Up podcast, or you can go on my website, icmtsu.com. There's plenty of places on the website where you can comment. My email, podcast at icmtsu.com, or joe at icmtsu.com is another email you can use. Reach out to me. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear what you have to say. But that is it for tonight's show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Look into these documentaries, look into these podcasts. They're really interesting, and I hope you take the information that you've heard and share it. Reach out to me on my site on Facebook, and we will see you next week on I Can't Make This Shit Up.